Welcome back, everybody, to the Common Thread. It's Devan here to bring you episode 12. And, after some long thinking on everything kind of happening right now with George Floyd and Black Lives Matter, I kind of decided that it would be good to take a few weeks off from podcasting. Really felt like this wasn't our stage to rise to. Like, this isn't the time to be bombarding the internet with senseless or kind of silly material. This should be material that is going to be important. And we felt like, again, this wasn't a stage for us to rise to. But I do think that this is an important subject to talk about. And there's so much going on right now. There's so much happening. It's such a sensitive time. Where to start? People did reach out and say, you do have this platform, talk about it. Let's address the issue. And personally, I felt like, this is a really hard subject and people are going to find this really hard to listen to if it's coming from a white male. This is not the stage. But I do feel as if I want to touch upon a few things. Because I think this is such an important time in life. We can be a part of the change. We can be a part of the process that gets us to the ultimate goal. So I think we'll start with, ultimately, with everything happening, this whole thing, talking about it, addressing racism, addressing discrimination, addressing our issues as a society, our wrongdoings. Like, as I did this, I thought about all the things that I've maybe done myself. And I honestly, memory is not one of my strongest suits. I probably should do better. But you know what? I'm just going to straight out and just go for I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I've ever said anything wrong. I'm sorry if I've ever did anything wrong based on a racial profile, based on racial discrimination. I'm sorry. I think that is the first step we must take, is just recognizing our wrongdoings, taking a step forward and realizing that we need to do right. Whether you think you've done something right or whether you don't. You never know what you've done in life. You might need to do some self-reflecting, but recognize it, own it, and talk about it, confront it, and let's go. That's how we get better. To be honest with you, I don't want to make this a super long podcast. I don't want to make this a super long thing because, again, it feels like, I want to talk about this. I want it to be addressed. But again, it's not my stage. And this isn't my stage. That's really all I have to say. And then for where we are, I think it's crazy that we're living in such an imperfect world. We've let an issue slip under the rug just too far. Why hasn't it been talked about? Why aren't we addressing these things? Why is it now in 2020 where you feel like, after having such a strong black president, Barack Obama, that here we are feeling like it's almost like circa 1960s, or it just feels just like taking a huge step back. And where does it all start? I feel like I've got so many things kind of on my mind as far as where this all starts, where it comes from, how do we change all this? And that's sort of where my mind goes. How do we change all of this? How do we change what's happening? Right now, using a platform to speak out and just say, hey, this is it. So first thing, I think education. Addressing a curriculum that talks about the real rawness and racial inequality in this country and maybe all in the world, as far as everything goes. It's so crazy to me. We talk about the Revolutionary War, you talk about the Civil War, you talk about World War I, World War II, and that's sort of my vivid memory of all history classes. Or maybe you're even talking about the Mayans, or even just obsolete figures like Christopher Columbus, and but you're not talking about the killing of hundreds of thousands of Indians, or slavery a whole lot. Let's talk about how fucked up we are to come in and colonize an area that truly was not ours. And it's still happening. The process of discrimination is still happening, and it's still real. But educating at getting into that uncomfortable topic of the not so good side of history, the things that we need to absolutely do better. It's so crazy to me. We criticize some of these leaders like Genghis Khan and things like that, but like we need to do better on educating ourselves on who we are, where we came from, what we've done, good and bad, to really enlighten everybody the whole picture and where we're gonna go, where we need to go to get real better. So I think educating in the schools, I think naturally it's going to feel uncomfortable, because I think people, if you do feel uncomfortable with it, then that's your sign. I mean, we got to address it. We need to address racism. We need to address discrimination. Boom. End of story. Find a way. Let's educate the masses. Let's talk about it. And that's another thing. Talking about it. Open conversation. Let's talk about our wrongdoings. Let's talk about our mistakes. Let's talk about how this gets better, because again, that's the end goal. Now, the justice system is one thing I also feel like needs to be addressed. I think it should be, when I looked at the qualifications to become a cop, it's really dependent upon state to state. And when looking at it with a fine eye, I think there should be a common high standard for all cops across the board. State cops, town, everybody should be held to a higher standard than whatever the fucking standard is now, because I don't really understand how it fluctuates. Some areas are like, oh, you need a little bit of college credits, and some are like, you don't need any college credits. As long as you're 18 years old and you can pass the physical and psych exam and come to the police academy, you're good to go. What? No. How come it takes longer to become a nail technician or a hairdresser going to beauty school than it does to become a cop? So for me, it's like teachers, right? Teachers, imagine if you just asked teachers to just be 18 years old and they just needed a few college credits, and then you're gonna go educate kids. No, that's not how that works, right? Teachers, by the way, side subject, are severely underpaid. One of the most important roles that this country, this world has, is educating young minds. Severely underpaid, and it's an important role. But they go to school for 4 years, maybe 5, maybe 6, depending on the level in which you're teaching. But college professors do pull it in, but are young, anywhere, high school teachers, middle school teachers, elementary school teachers, unless you're tenured, it's tough. It's a grind. So, super important job. Back to being a cop. Why is it just so easily to get into and become a cop? It needs to be, we need to hold them. These are the guardian protectors of your community. These are the people that, you want, you would feel better knowing. And I don't want to say but a stronger education for such an important role, I think would make everybody feel a little bit better. They need to have a criminal justice degree or something. Let's make that a requirement. Let's make that happen. It just doesn't seem fair to me that it doesn't take long enough. And it's such an important role. To me, I don't get that. So I would say that needs to be fixed across the board. The other thing, some sort of, and I don't know how this would be done, but a discrimination exam of some types, to test a cop. Maybe it's a scenario-based thing to examine the way a cop would handle certain situations depending upon, maybe it's sex, maybe it's color of skin, maybe it's on relationship, whatever it is. Test them, see how they handle it, see if they feel anything. We, in this day and age, we have so many exams for doctors and everything else. Why shouldn't a cop be tested to the same standard as those people who are just as important, if not more so? You know, like these people have an important job. Cops have an important job. Between being, their moral compass needs to be almost, it should be fucking perfect. Moral compass. When I say moral compass, I mean ethics. The decisions of good and bad, right and wrong. But it should be fucking perfect. They should be like really in line with that. And they should be doing these exams like every year so they don't get complacent. Because there might be, and I can't speak because I'm not a cop, but I'm like, in any role you get complacent. So you think you're doing the right things. But guess what? Just because you've been a cop for 30 years doesn't mean that your moral compass is in line, because that's probably not the case. Why are we still using lethal weapons and lethal, like teaching of lethal things that could kill somebody in this day and age? We have technology. Like, I was just talking to Quentin about this week, and I'm not a scientist by any means, but why can't we, like, I was watching fucking Tiger King, and they can put a tiger to sleep. Why not sleeping darts? Why not finding something that is not lethal? I can imagine we're in 2020 and we still haven't figured out. I mean, we can send a fucking rocket to space. We can, we've got electric cars, but we can't figure out a non-lethal way to contain a subject in an altercation with cops. Tasers? Okay. Pepper spray? It's a little harmful. Is there any other, can't we think of anything else? I mean, my thought is sleeping darts. Why are, like, guns? I don't know. I don't get it, but maybe I'm speaking, maybe I don't know all the science to a sleep dart gun. I don't know. But that would seem a lot more, logical than a gun and lethal force. And I can't speak to all, but it just seems like there could be a better way to handle some of these situations. There really should be. There could be. I mean, I just don't get what it is. Ultimately, guys, like, here's where my head's at. And I kind of I don't want to take up much more time, but this is where I'm at. Ultimately, we've got as far as I know, one life. And as far as I know, we've got one planet. And as far as I know, and as far as I see it, we all share this planet. We all share this area. We are technically, we can coexist. And as far as I'm concerned, why can't we all just coexist, get together, share this space, be united? United States of America, united. Teamwork, unity, oneness. Like, as a soccer coach, I always tell my boys, like, as long, like, we are one team. You don't have to, be best friends. You don't have to be friends. But I expect you to all work together towards one common goal. I think that's pretty fair. I understand that we may not all get along. We may not all see eye to eye on certain situations, scenarios, may not believe in the same things religion-wise. But as far as I'm concerned, I think every single person deserves a fair, happy, long life. Equal opportunity. Whether that's your African American, whether that's you're Asian, whether that's you're gay, whether that's you're a woman, whatever it may be, whatever. You are entitled, everyone deserves a chance to have a good, long, happy life being who they are. What they believe, whatever they want to do. You don't have to be best friends with them. You may not have to understand them, but you can definitely coexist. How hard is it to just to just coexist. You know, like, it's not hard to be friendly, to be kind. And, you know, I don't expect everybody to be buddy-buddy. I don't expect everybody to be best friends. But it's a one step closer if we can just all coexist, whatever that may be. And it's crazy. I always think back, and I'm going to leave it on this note. One of my favorite teachers growing up used to always tell us about the golden rule. What's the golden rule? The golden rule is treat others the way that you would like to be treated. I love this. I love this because that's it. And I challenge everybody who's listening to this podcast to spread this, to spread it. Spread this. Spread this good spread the good love. Spread it. Let's start talking about it. Let's start making the change. Coming in November, we have a serious thing coming up. It's voting. That's our voice. That's our platform to speak out. To do some homework. Figure out who's going to be the right person that's going to make those changes for us, for what we believe in. And leadership is key. Leadership is key. And we as people deserve, to feel united. I would love more than anything to look back on this, to listen to this, and just say, like, wow, this is where it starts. This is where, I've been to the protests. They're amazing. They're enriching. They're full of life. They send a powerful message. I have seen and I've read and I've looked up and I've done everything. You can donate, you can enrich, you can enlighten yourself. There's so much you can do. Now, let's go. Let's put it to action. Let's see what we can do. We have the power. Follow the golden rule. Treat others the way that you would like to be treated. That's it. Whatever you believe in, whatever you love, whoever you are, that's all right. That's all right. That's all right. And that's a wrap for me. Episode 12. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we live in this day and age, and not that we live in this day and age, but we have severely swept something that is so important under the rug. And I'm sorry about that. And I am here to say Black Lives Matter, because that is the most important thing right now. And let's address it. Let's go. Let's move forward. And at the end of the day, we are a team. We share this planet. We share this community. Everything we are around us, we need to coexist. So episode 12, I'm sorry. That concludes this episode. Next week, we will return, as stated, to what I was going to talk about. Wow, I'm a kid again. So I can't wait, guys. Looking forward to it. Enjoy your week, and we will see you guys next week.